You know, there weren't that many games that I'm looking forward to for this E3. There was a few that caught my attention, but I was really looking forward for the Insomniac Spiderman game. If you remember my previous video that I talked about it, I thought it was going to be a lot similar to Amazing Spider-Man in terms of mechanics and, just overall the way it was shown. It reminded me a lot about it. But man, was I kind of wrong. Like, not completely wrong, because there was a few things that do seem pretty much the same to me. The only difference is going to be when I play it. But the one thing that definitely stood out to me was the level of presentation and cinematics. This game obviously looks like it has a way better story and presentation than any of those Beanox games before it. Edge of Time might be a close second, but we'll have to see when it comes out. We can't compare them just yet. But immediately in this trailer, they started showing off the Predator segments, which is the stealth sections in Amazing Spider-Man. They had the same thing, where you can pretty much sneak behind people, press triangle, and knock them out. A lot of it seemed pretty similar to that. Hopefully it's better executed, because you can only tell visually how it works. Like, context of that nature matters, because in Amazing Spider-Man it didn't feel precise. It felt kind of floaty and, it felt kind of weird. But in this section, they already showed something that's new to this type of section, and it's that you can use gadgets to, lay traps for enemies. Which Spider-Man did with a little proximity mine, or proximity web shooter, that pretty much shoots a web out and drags enemies into the wall. Already that shows an improvement to the Predator system by adding in a variable that, wasn't there before. Right after that, they go into a combat section, where there you can see that even the combat still looks like Amazing Spider-Man to me. Like, maybe there's something I'm missing that I'm not seeing in terms of how the combat is working, because I don't see the inputs, so obviously I can't tell. In Amazing Spider-Man, it was just, you just press square, and obviously you had a counter button like in Arkham. But it lacked the free floatiness of the Arkham games. It tried to emulate it, it just wasn't as good. There was something about it where it just felt way more easy. All you had to do was really press square in the Amazing Spider-Man games, and then occasionally triangle. It didn't have the complexity and different enemy types that Arkham does now, because it was in its infancy. So maybe this is going along the same routes. It's going to follow more of the Arkham style. That's what I keep hearing. And it's going to keep evolving that and make it even better and have more enemy types as you progress through the story, which we do end up seeing later on in this trailer. But after that little cutscene with Wilson Fisk, they obviously go outside the building and they show the equivalence of the web rush mechanic, which is pretty much a staple at this point, basically just web zipping to wherever you're looking at. There's no need to really call it web rush anymore, because the automated part of it, where you see Spider-Man do all these crazy tricks and stuff, I think has been removed from it, and all there's left is the web zip part. Which, to me, is fine. I think it is exactly how it should have been anyway, because the web rush was kind of unnecessary as a mechanic. All I really used it for was for web zipping really quickly, and really that's all it should have been for. So, after that, they show this big guy that comes out of the helicopter, which you're seeing on screen right now. And he's already, a welcome change of pace in terms of enemy design. And something that most of the Spider-Man games haven't had in a while, like these different types of brute enemies. The last game I remember that had that type of stuff was Web of Shadows. And even with Web of Shadows, there wasn't that much depth to it. I don't think this is going to have much of a difference in pace either in terms of those enemies. But again, there's only one enemy type that we've seen that's different. We've seen generic goons and then generic big guy, which, yeah, even Amazing Spider-Man had those two enemy types anyway. So, I guess there's a little bit left to be seen. But just after those sections, immediately goes to show that, again, this game is going to be way more cinematic. There's just cinematics after, every section, it seems. And they're really making an emphasis on the villains this time around, which I find, it reminds me of the PS1 era of Spider-Man games, where it was all about the world that Spider-Man is in rather than just him, because most of the games usually revolve around him. Like Web of Shadows, the entire plot was around him. Shattered Dimensions was the same thing. Edge of Time was about Spider-Man and 2099 figuring out, how to fix time and whatnot. But it was usually always revolving around him. It never had anything to do with the city and him protecting civilians and stuff. That was more of a side thing in most of these games. But here, it's more of it's the forefront of the show. Because in this whole cinematic where he's protecting the people in the city from this crane, it's like, it's just something that happens and you just have to do it. It's like, because of Spider-Man messing up, he just has to save the city now. He has to protect people from this little falling crane. It's like, it's little things like that you rarely see, and they executed it in the way it should have been. It feels natural. It feels like something exactly like Spider-Man would do. And that's what I keep coming back to in this trailer. The more I look at it, the more I go like, yeah, this is exactly what Spider-Man would do. Like, and it just keeps going from there. It's like the web swing in the free roam section where he's following that chopper and the web zips in between everything. Like, there's nothing but constant flow and momentum. Because even Insomniac themselves mentioned that the web swing is going to be physics-based, which already you can see it has a lot more weight to it. There's little less jankiness compared to, say, Web of Shadows or even Amazing Spider-Man. Which I love Web of Shadows the most, but I gotta admit, like, the web swing looked super smooth. And it obviously showed that the game is free roam too. And now this one was the thing I was worried about the most. The little indoor running sections. I still think they're kind of automated. Like, think of Metal Gear Rising, where when it had those sections, all you had to really do was hold sprint, and basically it would automatically run over obstacles and stuff like that. But if you think about it, Insomniac with Sunset Overdrive had a parkour system that basically all you had to do was press one button to, like, execute all these really cool moves and stuff. Which, granted, it's a small, like, interaction with the player, but it really helps set the mood for this type of, like, scenario. Like, that's all you really need to make you feel like you're in control. So, again, this is one of the things where it looks cool, but I'm gonna really have to play the game itself to really, like, see how it works, because they didn't really show how that type of section works. It looks cool, but we don't know how it plays, which is gonna be the huge factor. And obviously, after all that sequence, Spider-Man just saves the helicopter from crashing into the ground in a quick-time event. And this whole mission is just Spider-Man being at his best. Which is something that I enjoyed the most out of any Spider-Man game, is the fact that you felt powerful. Like, you had the great power that they were always talking about. And you're putting it to good use. Like, I kind of never enjoyed the Spider-Man being a novice type of thing. And maybe because I grew up with him and, expect him to be just as good, better now than he was before. Because I grew up on the PS1 games, and that was Spider-Man in his prime, just doing his thing. It was like normal to him at that point. And that pretty much sums up the whole thing. They showed Mr. Negative and Miles Morales in this whole thing, and clearly they're going to have a huge role in the story, or at least they're going to have some of a role, because the villains are way more important this time around. They're pretty much going to be shaping the whole universe that they're making. So I'm impressed, to be honest. Like, I can't wait to see what this game is going to be like when it's released. I'm definitely going to get it, because already this is a step above. This is what superhero games should have been like. I'm glad that they're getting this type of respect now. And that people are saying, like, we need to give these characters their world justice in games, because people enjoy these characters and they enjoy just being a part of it and just feeling like they're these characters. They did it right with Batman when the Arkham series first launched. That was just the first step. Now they're doing it right with Spider-Man. Hopefully we get other big name companies seeing the appeal of making a video game with superheroes in it and just making a good one. Like, just literally making a good one. Like, that's all you need to do. Like, you don't, of course there might be sequels and stuff, but really, like, all you need to do is make one really good game. Before, the only ones that made really good superhero games was Treyarch, with Spiderman 2, and I like Web of Shadows a lot, just as much as Spiderman 2, but that's just me. It's like Treyarch was the one that I fucking knew that treated superheroes with respect, or at least Spider-Man in that case. So hopefully now we get some new era of superhero games. Maybe we can now give Iron Man a good game. Superman, holy shit. Like, I don't think anyone's even tried after the huge amount of failures of adapting Superman into a game. I keep hearing people want to see Flash. That one's going to be hard. I'm going to tell you right now, that one's going to be hard to make. Because you have to, it's like the same thing with a Sonic game. It's like, how exactly are you going to adapt speed and keep it, a coherent game and have it be long, because that's another one. But I'm rambling at this point. I really enjoyed the demo that they showed regardless. If you have any thoughts and you'd like to share them, that's fine. Let me know. Do you think that it looks too similar to Amazing Spider-Man? Or maybe you don't even care about that and you're just going for the next best thing, which is Arkham. The Arkham series, it looks too similar to that. Because it can go both ways, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 was basically trying to emulate Arkham in its fighting and free-floating combat, basically. But it kind of failed. But Insomniac did it better, I guess. It's like a happy medium to me. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. There's a few more games that I enjoyed I'm going to probably cover, but for now, I'm just going to stick with this one because I really enjoyed this one. Anyway, see ya.